Right. Hi, everybody. So we've looked already at Plato's allegory of the cave, right? And we get this image of a philosopher uh, kind of waking up to the reality around them, right? And then escaping and looking at reality as it is, right? So, and then, moving back into the cave in order to save other people, right? Or to, kind of help wake them up to the superficiality of what it is that they're seeing, right? Okay, so we get a really similar um, account of philosophy in this in the book here in the textbook Sophie's World, right? So it's about white rabbits. So here's the allegory from the text. I think it's on page 20. I'm not going to read all this, but essentially the idea is something like, look, there's this gigantic rabbit, and it's just like going through a big top hat, right? And there are all of these folks, and they're all born on the tips of the rabbit's fur, right? Kind of like lice. And as they get older and as they like prioritize different things and get into different like routines and such, they sink back down into the fur and they don't come out. And the people that come back out of the fur are philosophy type people, right? And they're riding around and sometimes they fall off. But they're yelling at the people back into the fur to come out of the fur, right? So we it's just like a hodgepodge of different kind of images, but there's clear parallels between the rabbit fur and the cave, right? So there's going to be some interpretation here. So what is it that philosophy is saving us from, right? What is it that um, um, what is it that the philosopher comes back to do, right? And what is it that the philosopher wakes up to, right? So when we step out of the cave, what are we supposed to see, right? When we do philosophy or when we step into philosophy, what is it that we're supposed to see? And how is it that we get other people out of it? And why is it so bad to be in the cave in the first place? Why is it so bad to be in the fur? It's comfortable, right? So these are all relevant questions, I think. So we might ask, so what does this have to do with the allegory of the cave? And like I've already said, both of them are allegories about escaping and then coming back to save or rescue other people. And we're trying to pose this question like, what are we trying to escape from, right? And so different philosophical traditions are going to give us different answers. So, for example, a Judeo Christian or Islamic tradition, they're going to say that being inside the cave is something like being in sin, right? Being in a superficial reality where you just prioritize your own material interest and your own selfishness. And those things, sin and selfishness and such, remove one from God, who is conceived as like charitable and other focused or other oriented, whereas sin tends to be like self oriented and selfish. And so, as a consequence, like God's desires and our desires aren't compatible. And so people who learn to be charitable or learn to be other oriented then go and look at the people who are selfish and try to get them out of their selfishness, right? Get them out of their sin. So, and then in like a Buddhist tradition, it might be ignorance, right? Or viewing yourself as a distinct self, right? And in virtue of looking at yourself in this way, right, that causes you to suffer, right? That causes you to struggle against reality, right? And so coming out of the cave for the Buddhist is going to be something like, look, seeing yourself not as a self, but as something that is empty. It's a non-self, and not and giving up, resisting what happens to you in reality, right? Giving up the struggle and accepting what it is that reality has to show you or is going to do to you, right? And then we might have this existentialist tradition that says that something like the cave is inauthenticity. Um, basically the notion there is that we want to be persons that are distinct from other persons, right? So like a lot of people just try to like conform to what other people are always doing, right? And that's what the cave is. That's what the fur is. Being inauthentic or being letting yourself conform to the norms or to whatever status or group that you're with at a given time, and then uh, coming out of the cave would be authentic, would be making yourself distinct from the groups to which you associate with, right? And if people don't like you, then you're okay with that. Whereas the other one is in the other case where you're inauthentic, you kind of fear that you're going to be alone. So, or we might say that like all of these answers are wrong, and it could be that the cave and the escaping of the cave and coming back to save people is like something else entirely. So anyway, here are three different interpretations of maybe the allegory of the cave or of the rabbit and the fur, that may all be wrong or maybe all right to just like some degree. So anyway, so when we're looking at Sophie's world, we're going to see this rabbit image, the rabbit fur image, talked about again and again and again. So it's important to like at least reflect on what it is that the author means to say when he's talking about the fur, right? What is the fur? What are we doing when we prioritize ourselves? What is it when we dig deeper into the fur? What is it that we value? What's the analogy? What's that supposed to be analogous to? So anyway, I'm posing these questions to you all, and I think you'll have a reflection paper. One will be on this. You'll have the option of writing on this topic, right? Trying to interpret the allegory of the cave, trying to interpret the 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 white rabbit analogy. So anyway, this is less of me trying to tell you what to think and more of trying to get you to think about what's going on in these passages.